Hi, today's movie is The Man Who Laughs, the 1928 romantic horror melodrama directed by Paul Lenny, starring Conrad Veidt and Mary Philbin, based on the novel by Victor Hugo. In 17th century England, the young son of a rebel nobleman is sold by the vengeful king to a band of gypsies who surgically disfigure the young boy. Abandoned by the gypsies, the young boy with a permanent grotesque grin is adopted by a travelling showman. Adulthood finds Gwynplaine a tormented but successful travelling performer, whose past returns to threaten not only his life but his love for his adopted sister. Now, like everyone else, I kept seeing the photo of Conrad Veidt in his extraordinary makeup for this movie posted on the internet all the time, but I'd never seen the film and I was really curious and intrigued to see the actual movie. And I'm delighted to say it's a really intriguing film and well worth seeking out. Though it has elements of horror in it, in the initial setup about the young boy being sold and then surgically deformed, and also in the Iron Maiden scene with Gwynplaine's father, and most especially in the extraordinarily striking scene of the young abandoned boy wandering through the field of hanged corpses and the frozen mother and child. This kind of horror does not continue throughout the movie, and instead it goes towards a more psychological kind of horror, and that is the horror of living with this disfigurement. And I think this was a really wise choice because Conrad Veidt's incredible performance as the tormented Gwynplaine provides not only the heart but also the centerpiece of the whole movie. Now, I've mentioned before that I think silent film acting varies so wildly, and even in this film that's true, as some people are playing it more like pantomime while others, like Conrad Veidt, are playing it for realism. But if you watch this film for no other reason, do watch it for Conrad Veidt's incredibly heart-wrenching performance, which really shows what silent film acting can be. And I would suggest Veidt really shows this art form at its finest and most compelling in his performance here. Gwynplaine is a man who's so desperately uncomfortable in his own skin. He's tormented by his physical appearance and how it's so at odds with what's inside him. And while his mouth remains fixed in this terrible grotesque grin all the time, his eyes reveal what's really going on inside. His pain, his terror at the way others perceive him, his constant uncertainty about his own place in the world, and his profound fear that he is essentially unlovable. That Conrad Veidt can convey all this and more without words, with only his eyes and his body movement, is a testament to the power of his skill as an actor. And even in the fable-like setting of this film, there's a naturalism to his performance that is compelling and utterly heartbreaking. Of course, the other great asset of this film is Jack Pierce's incredible makeup that so convincingly creates Gwynplaine's deformity. It is really painful to look at on both the child Gwynplaine and the adult Gwynplaine, but at the same time it's mesmerizing, and it is really hard to look away from it. Gwynplaine is constantly hiding his mouth, he masks himself, he's afraid to be seen, and he is unable to connect to those around him. And this sense of having to be masked all the time might lend an extra layer of poignancy to viewers today watching the film. Mary Philbin as Dea, whom Gwynplaine saved as a baby and is now devotedly in love with as an adult, is suitably angelic in her role. Unworldly, innocent and blind, she loves Gwynplaine because she sees what's inside him and not his outward appearance. Having starred as Christine in the Lon Chaney version of Phantom of the Opera only a few years before this movie, it's tempting to see Mary Philbin typecast as playing the love interest of a facially deformed man. But she really is tremendously effective in this movie, and both she and Conrad Veidt convey this sense of their characters being almost childlike, not really a part of the world, and in many ways destined to be together. Olga Baklanova is full of surprises as the wild duchess who plays by her own rules and is quite naughty. She's probably most familiar to horror fans for her role in the Todd Browning film Freaks. But what I love most about the scenes with the Duchess was the Duchess's monkey, who really steals every scene he's in. Monkey liked that bit too. Another great highlight of this movie are the sets and design, which really give the film such an epic feel. And I believe that the same set designer would later go on to work on the Universal classic horror films like Dracula and Frankenstein. And the lush look of the film is complemented by some really superb cinematography. The film is not without its flaws. The final act I thought was a bit protracted and messy, and some of the acting might be a bit too big and too pantomimey for modern audiences. The soundtrack on the print I saw I also felt was a little bit clunky, and I initially thought this was perhaps a modern addition, a sort of clumsy redubbing of sound effects and crowd noises onto the soundtrack of the film, but I learned that this was actually added very close to the time of the film's original release. But these are both really minor qualms. The Man Who Laughs is one of those films that you could watch just for the special effects makeup, just for the grotesque look of Gwynplaine, and enjoy it at that level. But there is a lot more to appreciate if you're willing to look for it. I think this is a film about identity, appearances, and how your outward appearance might not match how you feel inside at all. And how do you live with that? I think these are really interesting themes as the film gets into the idea of inner beauty versus outer ugliness and its reverse. But above and beyond every other consideration, The Man Who Laughs is worth seeing for Conrad Veidt's truly incredible performance. And let's not forget his other iconic role in a horror film in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari some years before this film. In these two films, he created two amazing roles that deserve to be celebrated and appreciated. And I think they both still have so much to offer audiences today. Of course, many people have noted that the look of Gwynplaine in this film might have been the inspiration for the Joker in Batman, but really when you watch the film, that is such a minor part of its interest and appeal. I would defy anyone to watch this film and not be moved by Conrad Veidt's performance. It really raises some very painful questions about our appearances and how they reflect or don't reflect how we feel inside, and also how they make others treat us. I would highly recommend The Man Who Laughs if you're interested in seeing a silent film that is still impressive nearly 100 years after it was first made. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye.